sometimes a little longer. All right, I'm seeing red. I guess we are live, and I'm gonna hope that we are. So with me tonight, everybody, and welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. First of all and foremost, is Mary Fabian, a researcher, and within the Bigfoot community and much more. Very open-minded, researches a lot of things, has a lot of good information. Over 50 years, and you look too young to be doing this for 50 years. I'm just going to say it like that. You really do look wonderful tonight. Um,
Thank you.
oh, you're very welcome. It's been a while. Last time we were on, we had all kind of technical difficulties going in and out. I know that video's up there somewhere in my archives, but this is going to be one that people will finally get to. Hey, who is that? Oh, here she is in person. I mean, you're one of the top researchers that get overlooked, and that is a shame, to be perfectly honest with you. But
Doesn't
going
matter
in,
to me.
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I just said it doesn't matter to me. I have no ego. I honestly
Yeah,
don't.
I hear you. I hear you. That's why sometimes I go MIA. I want everybody to have opportunity. I want to help people. The only thing I've ever done was to help people. It's sad if people close doors in faces of people for whatever that may
Yeah.
be, but it is what it is. But we're out there doing work, researching. I think in the past too, I've even invited you up to my place, not for the best Bigfoot sightings, but for the ufology end of it, because I know you look into everything,
Yeah.
and we don't know what's really going on when it comes down to it. Have you come up with any other new theories of the lights in the sky versus the sighting of a Bigfoot? Has anything like that been anything?
Uh, Regarding UFOs or the orbs or whatever,
Yeah, the possibility that there's a connection with Bigfoot with them.
yeah. I honestly, I've seen orbs, more orbs since we've spoken last. Uh, if there's a connection, it's possible, and I've got theories, that it's possibly connected with the infrasound that they put out, the energy level, physical energy level from the infrasound, and that's, I fall back on science always, and that's what you got to go by. At least I do. And same with EMF. It's possible that it's caused by EMF, affecting and associated with Bigfoot. Um, Whereas, for the UFOs, right now, all I can say is possibly coincidence, until I see more, evidence about it, for me, it's coincidence.
Yeah. I know there's been a couple shows out there, and sometimes you get in trouble for mentioning them, but there's been some, I won't say conflicting evidence, but maybe more to the positive, that when seeing orbs doing their filmings in certain areas of the United States, there has been a closeness of
Mhm.
picking up through infrared cameras some type of enormity that's identified. Of course, we can't identify it. It's like looking up into the sky. Well, what is that? Well, we can speculate, but we're not right next to it to actually identify it, to actually say with positivity, oh, well, there's an unidentifiable craft of some sort. But are they? Maybe they're really ours. Maybe they're another government. Maybe they always have
Poss-
been. you know, it's a plus.
Possible,
I
yeah.
mean, we
Or
go ahead.
or future us.
Yeah, yeah, and that's really possible. So do you think our consciousness working with Earth sometimes? Well, again, this is all hypothetical, but is there, in your mind, have you ever thought about it? I'll put it that way to you, that our own consciousness works with Mother Earth here, and Earth has its own ability of consciousness. It is life. It
Mhm.
produces life. It seeds life. It recreates itself. Everything that's been put here, including me and you, we can produce life. We are a
Yeah.
God within a God of ourselves and way of creation. and our intelligence can elaborate even further on what we are willing to input into what creation is, and stabilizing it and planting trees and flowers, and then they reproduce and they do
Mhm.
more. It's kind of like that. So is there a possibility that somehow we can influence a manifestation?
It's very possible, because, like you said, where uh, Earth is very old. We have no idea, honestly, how old Earth is. And, it's associated, even thousands of years ago, tens of thousands, 100,000, with the old gods. And who knows what they do, anymore. And I'm sure it's still there because they're still being worshipped by some people. Um, yeah, and how much that they affect, what's going on. I would think very much, good or bad. Who knows?
Yeah. Um, okay. Trying to stay with you because you stretched my imagination just a tad. Um, Talking about no, and we're not going to go into a negative place, but a positive place of trying to just, interact in a positive way to share
Mhm.
information. Um, as you said, there's certain things going on that make you wonder because certain people seem to worship this, that, or the other, and maybe they do
Yeah,
hold some type of power over everything that goes on. And I think you're probably referring to the Anunnaki.
yeah,
The- You
yeah.
know,
Both that and the other side of the coin, with uh, Baal, Baal, the worship of, etc.
mhm.
That is still currently going on in the world. And I don't know where you want to go, because that delves into a completely other realm, and I don't want to get you in trouble.
No, no, no. Please, I want you to just influence us with knowledge and your theory of thought. I think that's intelligent conversation. I don't fear it. I never did. I think if I feared it, why is somebody still keeping me here? I mean, think about what I do.
Yeah,
It's just
only
not
one.
Facebook. It's everywhere. And I think
Yes.
that's just who I am. And to me, it's like, there's got to be a good side and a bad side because I'm still existing for whatever reason that is.
Yeah,
But when we get into that,
that's
you
right.
also have speculation. It's just not the Anunnaki. It could be the Gigi, which was like a breakaway civilization on another interstellar planet that was, also harvesting gold and building structures that came
Okay.
from the original planet Nibiru. So, I mean, could that be the bad and good? And that could be the part of the good angels who left, the fallen angels who stayed, who then may have became the Raphaelim, the Nephilim,
Hmm.
who managed to somehow survive. And is that kind of like where you were theorizing?
That's, yeah, yeah, very possible. And it's, there's so much evidence and so much more that's coming out in the world, little by little, about all of this, including the Raphaim and the Nephilim, and the worship of the gods, and as along with Yeshua, and which I'm a Christian of very deep faith, and so that's where part of my mindset goes. Also, that I lean heavily towards that.
Yeah. Well, it seems that there is ancestry that came from all that. If we stick with this particular type of topic, that mentions certain facts and theories. I wouldn't say theories, but it seems to be more factual of the Azuzu or Azu.
Yeah.
I, in my terms, like uh, other people, David Icke might have his opinion, and Jordan Maxwell may have had his. Mine is at the zoo, a zoo. They were the ones that were here that were more likely to have been part of a structure of creation for humankind, Homo sapien, Homo sapien, utilizing these particular, let's call them individuals, because in a way they actually called them individuals. And that'll come into play as we know that they were having this big rebellion amongst themselves because they were mining for all these properties and harvesting for this and that. And we had better growth potentials because of sunlight and water and fresh air. And they were able to create different types of seeds of healthcare and so forth, and that they believed in. So we know that some of these things are on the platform of them, but they also claim, just like it's in the Bible, that they were one of hairy men. So going back to now narrating and that full turn back to Bigfoot, I mean, maybe these species were not all changed over. They, didn't all become part of this networking of trying to figure out how to create nothing good about me saying this, but a system of slavery to do their mining for them because they got fed up with their own gods or their own leaderships telling them do more. And they said, we're tired, we're worn out, we can't do it any longer, do something else. So, I guess where I'm going with this, we know that they were dabbing and diving all through a genetic change for something to benefit themselves. And maybe they didn't do the whole system. And that's why we're seeing, in some cases, Bigfoot.
Yeah, whether they were created because we were too weak or too stubborn to do all the work that they needed, and so they created the Bigfoot. Well, who knows? But whatever purpose that they were made,
Yeah.
Who knows?
And that's right, because when you look at the overall of everything on this planet, there seems to be a need for all of us in some way. Everything reflects that.
Yeah. They were made for a purpose. I deeply believe that, and their purpose isn't done, and that I am sure of. They have a purpose, and biblically again, at the end times. I have no idea what the purpose is, but they will be called on to do something.
Yeah, that's something to think about and consider. Truthfully, I don't always think of it on that angle. Thank you for bringing that up. I'll have to like curve my mind to that mentality a little bit, because I like to pick it apart, certain things apart, and say, well, we know we have this, but then there's this big what if on the other side. And I go with that big what if, but again, we have to keep that and try to comprehend all the information the best we can. And they could be here for that. So in a way, it seems like you're referring to the book of Revelations.
Yes.
Of a system, a process that is due to happen. Well, then.
Yes. Yeah. During, one of the opening of the seals or blowing of one of the trumpets, something, but they are involved.
Right. And I know when we look into this, that speculation is truly out there. It's, I wonder, I guess, of different sorts of why that is, because if we really look back into Christianity, and I'm not trying to be negative to anybody, respect to everybody out there before I say this, because it's in a kind way, it's just information and data. This book was written 500 years before Christianity knew how to take off. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that people need to look in also to figure out that construct or a narrative of construct. When we go into books, whether it's John, Matthew, Paul, doesn't matter. They weren't the true ones that wrote them. These people that surrounded that man, Yahshua, before the letter J ever came into place, and which became then Jesus. A lot of people have said, the scholars have said, if you would have went and asked in that time, if you were able to time jump back and ask for him, you wouldn't find them because they wouldn't know who you're referring to.
Right.
So it's kind of like puts the things all over the place. If in fact that book was written 500 years before, why? We can, again, it's speculation as to why, and anybody can create theory. And I think some of the scholars have. I try to study them, but I haven't gotten any further with it. It seems that a lot of things, or we are in a path with a lot of things, whether it's ufology, information, archaeology. I mean, for one reason, why was everything buried? I mean, it seems like there was something catastrophic could have happened, but when we look at things over and over repeatedly, it's like people made the effort to bury the old information. So it makes me wonder, because the Anunnaki in writing said that there was law and rule to the universe. And it makes me wonder if the true argument of fight happened for what they were doing here and developing or having their hand into a development of man in some way that they had no intention to keep. And that's why we're here, is because somebody else came in and gave them a warning that maybe could have been a civilization with a higher technology and a higher power to them.
Yeah. Whether there was someone else that came in and the Anunnaki buried the knowledge, and it came visible later on. It's just like, the Dead Sea Scrolls that were they were found 50 years ago, and little by little they're coming out, and they're finding more, even though they have come out with the different books, which are amazing, and the additional knowledge contained in them. But even so, there is still more knowledge coming out of what they're finding in them. And who knows why they were initially buried, as well as the Anunnaki, the knowledge of the Anunnaki. Was it an immense battle, war, that the knowledge had to be hidden, because man became too stupid or too backwards. We just didn't. We had to advance, and we were old enough to know what was going on, until we gained the knowledge and the wisdom to comprehend, what was coming out.
I would agree. The only place I would go off a little bit on my side in theory would be if they didn't do it, and they ran off this planet for whatever reason, because it seemed like they did a major evacuation pretty quickly, then maybe a higher power of a higher civilization or source was the ones responsible for saying, cover it all up, wipe it all out, knock it all down. Because then we've seen other civilizations come in and rebuild over the structures that were once there. Why weren't they all taken out? It's hard to understand. I heard something from Billy Carson the other day where he was saying that the caps on the pyramids were removed, but it wasn't removed by people. It was removed by a civilization of order and technology, as if it was supposed to be taken down. And you know how you have your Sphinx and all these things and the face changes. We also hear that. So it's almost like, that's the plan, to remove. And it's like there's always that wall that we hit, no matter what we're observing or looking into, that seems to stop us at that crossroad.
Yeah, it's all I can think of is that I don't know if you follow Dutch Sense channel on YouTube.
A couple times.
Times. Okay.
I'm sorry. It's
okay.
hard because I don't want influence. I want my research to make my mind work. See, when I watch shows, people get influence from them. I love people. I don't want to not be a part of them. That's why hello, good evening to all. I'll say something nice. I'll stick around for a few. But when I talk, I try to do it from what I develop and the perception of what could be a possible fact. Um, Whereas if I listen to somebody night after night, I may
Mm-hmm.
start to pick up, not even knowing that I'm doing it,
Right.
under an influence. And as you
Yeah.
know, as we watch TV, it
Oh yeah.
becomes, it's an influence.
Oh yeah.
So I stay away from that platform. But I love everybody. I do. I want everybody to do well who deserves to be doing well. I want that.
Well, he comes out with and introduces information about the old civilizations, the star forts that he finds, and the um, remnants of civilizations from 10, 12, 15,000 years ago that are hidden by modern day construction
Mm,
or just weathering and so on, and whatever geological. But there's so much history out there that's with modern technology, whether it's purposely or not, or by accident, but the knowledge is coming out little by little, and it's being trickled out to us. Are we ready for this? And that's the question. It's like feeding pablum to a baby. And you slowly go from formula, baby formula, to pablum, to Gerber's vegetables, mashed up vegetables, and then solid foods. You have to feed us slowly, because we are still growing in the knowledge, and until we're ready to finally know uh, what is to be known. And is that the way that it's supposed to go? I don't know.
yeah, makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. But you know what? Just as you theorize through the baby formula, it's a taste at a time. A taste at a time.
Yeah,
The disclosure, even in ufology, has been that way. It's like every 5 years, something seems to come back into light.
right.
Although we're seeing other things that kind of jump that narrative, with David Grunch coming out saying things that people and
Yeah,
other types of beings have existed. He gets it from the highest levels in the government. And again, it, I don't, he's from Pittsburgh. I want to say he's a rock star because we're in that same type vicinity of locale.
mm-hmm.
And we've had a lot of great people. Wendy Bell. I mean, when you really look at it, we've had some of the best come out of
Yeah,
Pennsylvania. Stanton Friedman. I used to pump gas in his car. He's one of the guys that turned me on to like opening my mind up more, because like you, I've been doing this over 50 years. In
yeah.
1972, the fall of 1972, I think I met him for the first time. I didn't know who he was. I just put gas in his car. Yeah, well, I mean, he worked in the area and so forth. And liked
Yeah.
to dine in a couple certain spots, but those spots weren't exactly right around me. But he would come in and see I was there late at night, fill it up, and it wasn't always often, but he got to know me. I got to know him, face, eyes. We did have a few conversations, and he told me one day, if you're bored, well, listen to me on the radio. I did. Yeah, how was I? I think he was getting like
Oh,
$50 a show a night. It was like nothing. He told me it wasn't worth his time. Yeah,
wow.
I can remember him saying it wasn't worth his time. But even when we were no longer, he was no longer coming in, and there was no. But I learned who he was more and more and more, and I listened to him. I watched his words. I seen him in Washington. I seen him with Linda Moulton Howe. I seen him with Stephen Greer. I've seen him with them all. Uh, Paul, the Department of Defense Canada. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. His last name. Great guy. I mean, why do we get these forms of disclosure and see these sightings and have these sightings, but at the same time, not knowing what's really in the skies that we're looking at because of creativity, narrative, space junk, Starlinks, and now Starlinks it actually does dances in the skies for us. They don't tell it, but they put these simulations into their abilities, and I think in times that we are actually looking at something that was a form of maybe that disclosure you're describing that comes in little pieces, or the fact that they want to just keep us enlightened to something.
Yeah, are we being led right or wrong?
Mm,
And again, that's where wisdom and discernment come in. You have to watch and step carefully, in that growth, in that advancement.
right.
Where's this going to? And you just have to step carefully.
Yeah. I started coming out talking a few years ago. I'm not going down a political road here, but a narrative of certain things. People talk about Planet X and theories of this, that, the return, and what the devastation would be if it comes back in and on that loop, and how that loop has transformed and changed Earth every time it's passed. And sometimes I just wonder in the back of my mind, and I've said it. Forefront to American people, and wherever these shows go, whether they're in Europe, I don't know. But as far as it's allowed to go, wherever it ends, it ends. Um, I talked about this. What if everything we're watching is for an entirely different reason of how to deal with something that's coming in the future? It has nothing to do with what we're looking at.
Yeah.
That we're getting all aggravated about. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't rightfully be aggravated, because we know there's truth behind many things.
Hmm.
But I don't know how that would be purposeful to it, to something of magnitude. But it just seems at times it always reflects back to the same type of scenario, as if two sides are fighting over how to handle something. And when we look at where one side's trying to take us into a new development of everything, it's almost like we're preparedness. And then you have all these underground systems and things going on. Again, I'm not trying to get, and I'm staying away from that big P word, but I think you feel, and I think anybody listening understands where I'm kind of going with it. But what if it's not even about that? What if it's about a fact, a possibility that this could occur, or something could be on its way here that they are aware of, that has nothing to do with a solar flare or uh, an invasion of our world, but maybe a possibility of a theory of something else. And I think I try to keep my mind open to those things, but because of what we've seen in the history, what you explained about what this gentleman exposes on past civilizations and so forth, something seems to cause
Yeah.
people's extinctions. Where did they go? Göbekli Tepe, 13 to 15,000 years old. It seems like it's been built over 3, 4 times.
Yeah.
And we have these locations that always seem to have that occur. It's like a reset.
Yeah. And right around the same time frame also.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. You're right. Yeah.
Historically, if you look around the world, it all seems to be right around that same time frame. So what happened? We don't know. The flood, that was about, what, 5,000 years ago or something like that. Um, no, there was something else that happened, some cataclysm that just about destroyed the earth, but we held on, as humans, and we advanced, and Bigfoot, there alongside of us, went into hiding. Were they in hiding all the time? Were they working alongside of us before? Were we at odds before? Um, ton of questions and not enough answers,
Right.
and but the clues are coming out little by little.
Well, okay. From the perception of Bigfoot, we could say that there could be a possibility of something be helpful waiting in the darkness to come out and help try to save humanity. The same way the Indians talked about the ant people, that saved them and took them underground during uh, systems of problems that they had incurred. And we can go further down that rabbit hole, of course. I mean, then you have theories of time travel too that have been speculated to be had um, been completed, and I don't want to say perfected, but in some ways talked about being perfected. And when I look at some of these hieroglyphs and stuff, it makes me wonder if we weren't even, like you said, bringing the past to the future and the future back to the past. When we see these bicycles engraved in stones, maybe we took them there and left them there. Maybe we do have jump rooms that were able to do that, and we are in an evolutionary system trying to help do something to save a system. But it makes you wonder when you see Rocket Man, you know, a plane made out of gold that actually they mimicked, recreated, and it flew.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder. And the bicycle thing really tips me off. When I look at that bicycle, it's like, God, that looks like one that was made by Schwinn, you know? But they have it. It's there. And then you see like there's wristwatches, people in pictures,
Yeah.
people in pictures that don't belong in pictures. And the best in the world from Kodak said these pictures were not manipulated. What's somebody doing in front of Abraham Lincoln dressed like the 1920s? You know, of a different era.
Yeah.
It psychologically makes my mind work in a very weird fashion.
Yes. Well, they say that technology in reality is about 40 to 50 years ahead of what we are shown publicly. Privately, technology is far ahead of us by 5 decades, but they don't release it to us in the public not until many, many years later. But in reality, is it thousands of years rather than decades? That technology is really there, and it's being leaked out to whoever's in charge here. It's being fed to them like pablum, and they are feeding us with their pablum. We're all growing little by little, but there's just there's too much out there that the carvings in the Aztec carvings, the Egyptian carvings, in the rocks, in in the temples, they're all too similar, way too similar. On my Facebook page, I recently posted 2 photos of 4 examples of carvings that are so similar from around the world, that it's a wonder. Okay, how did they all know? How did they all get these same carvings, these same figures? Looks like they're carrying a purse. Each of them, all 4 of them, from around the world, or the ones that are riding a bicycle or riding in a spaceship. They're an ancient astronaut. Where did they come from? Who brought them, and who are they still here, just trickling them out, to us?
Yeah, also makes me wonder when you bring it up the way you did. We know about that. Well, I'm not, maybe not everybody, but the Vatican, and this isn't a religious thing that I'm going into, and it's very short, but it's the fact that they hold things, more things than the museums, down in that 5 miles of catacombs. And what is really there is probably all the answers to everything that you and I are discussing right now.
I don't doubt it. Not one single bit. I don't doubt it.
I mean, because when you look at the CIA, we learned that the Vatican is Catholics in Action. CIA, Catholics in Action. And that's always been a process, even with the Pentagon. They have a hand into the Pentagon of the and a very rich family in Italy actually owns the structure. But they don't bring those narratives up. And I don't want to either, because I don't want to go into that juncture of it, but trying to hypothetically talk about it. Do you think Dogman is on the same side with Bigfoot?
No, I don't think so.
Two different agendas?
I think so, they are. There's too many witness encounters, that give the impression, that they're evil. that people look at them and they just get a deep presence feeling, just a cloud of evil, surrounding them. And so, no, I don't think that they're the same agenda or the same. Well, for one, Bigfoot exhibits primate characteristics. The dogman, the true dogman with the what is it, plantigrade foot, the dog leg, the dog leg, where they are canine, looks like, and possess canine characteristics. Does that say that dogs are evil? No.
You bring up a good fact that I'd just like to touch on real quick. A lot of people say when they're out in the wilderness and some of these pine barrens and so forth, they always blame these giant dog-like footprints on giant wolves. Maybe they are dogmen. I mean, and nobody's really bringing that into the fact. They're all saying, well, these are from wolves. Well, what if they're not from wolves? What if they are from this wolf-like Nubis type creature that maybe was developed through what we know as from back in ancient times, because statues and figurines and symbolisms of that existence had once occurred and had existed.
Right. Yeah. It's the Egyptian Anubis. It's a statue of what people describe as dogmen, with the tall pointed ears, the long snout, nose, and the teeth and the vicious demeanor, the black eyes, the soulless, basically, is what some of it is being described as. Is that so, or is that imagination whenever people encounter them? We don't know. There's so many different things that can go into this, that can influence the witnesses, that we don't know exactly what they see. Although I have taken witness report from hardened military men that curl up in the fetal position, cry, after seeing something, and they can't even describe what they see.
Right. And that takes me back to some pictures that I was releasing several years ago. And I was actually in a certain place. I was not in that particular place, but this, I call it the below level 7, where bioengineering and all this different, it's DARPA doing everything nobody else will do and studying it. And then from the studies, they take the step into that circle back system of where we are in life and utilize these things like, blue beam, all these things that seem to be of an unbelievable become believable. And it just makes me wonder, when we see things, hear things, and I've talked about this and I said it many times, that China is involved with things, and I think we do work with them. We could be at war with them, but yet we still have this little space somewhere with them where they're sitting side by side with our military and our scientists, with their military, their scientists. They're trying to work out a project together,
Yeah. So whose side is those in command on? And even then, I've heard something today about Marines being sent to the Philippines, and battleships going to the Philippines. So going on, there's more. There's so much more going on that we're not even being told. And are we on the verge?
I think we're on the verge of something, and I don't know if it's all about the big P word. I really don't. I don't know. I do know one thing. When certain things came across the number 45, when he told us there would be things that he would bring forth to reveal and open, he redacted on many of those. And I think he was learning a system of something that may be sometimes better off not said, because he also promoted,
For right now, yeah.
yeah, he also promoted in his speeches that if it's going to be negative to the people, he's going to have resistance to what he will deliver to them. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a cloak of curtain to protect. So again, here we are back to that narrative of what if, and it's a big what if in this system of everything. But I do believe that we are tampering with things and have been tampering with things, and under certain military industrial complexes and so forth that are creating and not just changing the environment. Why is that so important? Every plant, every seed, make everything go back to the fact that what is creation is going to be a non-creation system. It's like a
Yeah.
preparation that is hard to understand why it's taking place, but we see it in front of our eyes. It's hard to theorize it all with all the conflict.
Mm-hmm. Like you were saying, the weather modification, the purpose of that, there's always depopulation, but then there's also, movement, migration, uh, according to what the weather brings, and, people being affected by food resources being destroyed, and so they move.
Right to America.
And yes,
And that
yes.
could all be part of the plot. Is it a plot to save humanity truly? And again, I mean, look, when no one's willing to go down there, well, recently somebody's been willing to go down there. There's been some type of adverse action being now put and implemented through the National Guard. But I mean, we could have threw 100 alligators in the river a year ago and we wouldn't have had the problem. There's a fear tactic that could have been placed and navigated properly. But again, you're right on the money there. But it's like the geographical structure of Earth is coming to change. And about 30 years ago, I kid you not on this, I was on an AOL channel with people talking like we are now, everybody in their deep conspiracy. And a couple military guys, for whatever reason, they come in. I couldn't tell you who they are, but I remember the one woman. She was a very close friend that would send me little notes and tidbits. And when she was retiring, they were giving out a brief telling people to move to the Midwest and central locations of the United States. And it would be beneficial for them to do it before 2029.
Okay.
Well, I'm not trying to
Interesting.
scare anybody, but they were talking about it. But look, we can also reflect to the fact that we have maps that talk about Bigfoot that are in the military, right on military maps that mention it. So I mean, we can go all over the place with this kind of scenario. I just thought I'd throw that in. Now, whether or not the document picture that she sent me, I actually still have that computer. It probably wouldn't reboot for me for the life of me. I used to plug it into the phone jack in the wall, but I have it. Some of these documents even buried on that thing sitting against the wall back there. And it's like, it's all coming to light. It's all coming to light.
Yeah. 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 We're coming down to the wire. We're close to the wire, if not right at the wire, and just waiting on the last word, the last seal to be opened.
Do you have any idea what that seal is? What that refers to? Because I know I have thought, which I don't want to trouble you with my deep thought, but do you have any?
Oh goodness, no, I don't. There's so much that comes out with the opening of each one, the banking, the money, being affected, the balance of justice being affected in some way.
Right.
Who knows? It's all guesswork, because all we can do is look at the symbolism, and we can all we can do is surmise as to what is what.
Right.
We don't know. What do you think?
Well, I don't know if it's a seal. I truly don't. But I think if anybody is going to tip people off, and our military does it, I mean, if we even go into ufology, we got Graham Hancock, George Knapp, George Norrie, Clifford Stone, Bob Odine, Linda Moulton. I mean, I could give you 100 names right now of the best that have been out there. But where does all the information always come from? The whistleblowers, military, retired military, deathbed confessions, the military.
Yeah.
People that were always involved in the deep, secretive, classified, no can talk, no can do, no. And I know how that works. I know personally how that works.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot talk about it, but yet, people will throw you under the bus and, challenge you on everything. You can do anything else in life. Once you leave there, it doesn't mean you don't still understand what the values and what the terms of the contract mean.
Mm-hmm.
Because recently I was thrown under the bus on something just like that, calling me out. I mean, literally calling me out across America. And I just let him have his moment.
Yeah.
I let him have his moment because he'd be the first one that would run his ass off out the back door if I showed up at his front. But I'm not going to waste my time on that type of person or his ignorance, because
Mm-hmm.
we would not be where we are if we didn't have people coming forth. And if we are having such a dilemma or a possibility, and we do see we are, that is a factual thing of something. That's not a speculation. That's a fact. And the push and the narrative of compliance, of force on everything, in our foods, in our water, in our air. It's almost like they are trying to take us into a form of Bigfoot, transhumanism, of something different, of a different type of energy that may be. I'm not saying it's important. We see the bad facts, but maybe they're in a place to where they're trying their best. And I'm not saying that's the whole scenario. I'm just throwing this big what if out there,
Right.
that they're trying to save humanity. And we have two sides again fighting over how and what is proper. But if you go back to the prior to the election, previous presidential election, we had a president that stood behind us even when he got up in front of the podium until we got almost got booed off stage one night. And he decided never to bring it back up, that I got it. I'm okay. Well, not everybody is okay. And maybe they did things for it to work out on a different narrative, where not every lot of these little things that were being, Frankensteined into people were of a problem. But they were trying to get a grasp, because even though everything is over, it's said it's over, they made no announcement to it. You have that going on. And it makes me wonder, with them knowing what they know, what they're doing with DNAs, is there a different meaning behind it all? And it puts us back to that dark place, but also brings us up to the fact that we must look back into time and history, and my theory of mine, and to say, well, what the hell happened back then? And again, we have more questions than answers, as you said, and you brought up. Even back then, it doesn't get us any further than where we are now in this present.
No. Who played with the DNA back then? What happened back then, and what is, well, like you said, where will the Bigfoot be at the end? Will they be on our side? Will they be on the bad side? Will they be in the middle? Personally, I think they're on our side. They're holding back. They have to stand back right now because they're being forced to be neutral, to live their own lives away and apart from us. It's not until the end, that they'll come, at the last trumpet, at the final battle.
Yeah, and every day we wake up, it does feel like that presence is becoming more well known, more aware of,
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. Hey, so for right now, let's just take a deep breath because I think we went all over the board, but in a good way. I really think we logically, you don't have to think it; it's okay. But I think people want to know. I mean, I can tell by the numbers. I know who's looking. And I
Yeah.
know what keeps people staying. And I think that we are actually doing something good for researchers out there across the board. We may not be sticking to a focal point of what has been regurgitated, wash, rinsed, and repeat 1,000 times. So let's take a question from Joe Fox. I think it was Joe. Yeah, Joe Fox says, Mary, where is a great place to go in Pennsylvania to manifest an encounter? See, some people do believe that we are capable of creating our own encounters.
Yeah. Well, in Pennsylvania, let me think. I could tell you, just over the state line in Ohio at Salt Fork State Park. Go to the group camp on Parker Road and sit there on one of the picnic tables and just sit quietly and go to one of the campouts offered by either our group or an associate group out in Ohio, the Ohio Bigfoot Researchers, and what's the Coshocton County. There's a bunch of great groups out there, and I tell everyone, and I never promise anything. Just if you go there, go along with one of the people in the Ohio groups to one of their campouts at Salt Fork and join them, at the group camp and hike down one of the trails with one of the researchers there. Uh, Again, no promises. You just may see something, you may hear something. Um, every time I go, I at least see eye shine. We hear vocals quite often out there. But as for here in Pennsylvania, there's quite a few numbers and places I can think of. Let me think. Up in Armington, Pennsylvania, on the Chestnut Ridge, in any number of places. Offhand, Quebec Run. If you hike down that trail, you can camp down there, and it's very possible that you may experience just. But no matter what, I have to caution you: be careful what you wish for. Be very, very careful. It's what you want, you may not get. You may want I don't know, some people say, oh, they just want to talk to a Bigfoot, hand it a candy bar and give them a hug. Well, that's not going to happen. I'm sorry. They are, you may see something peeking out from behind a tree. You may hear a rustling in the bushes. That's about all you may experience. Just be careful what you wish for. Go into this very carefully. Go with people who know what they're doing, who know where they're going, and just take care.
Yeah.
And I hope I answered your question.
There's a big world out there, but I think you're right on the money. And even up where on my side, up in Carnes City, Armstrong,
Yeah.
it's kind of like I call the small foothills of the Appalachia. It seems that's one of the hot spots. And some of these hot spots also Um, when they collaborate with Ohio, it's like the Serpentine Mounds and all these other kind of historic places. It's like a place
Yeah.
of refuge in a certain way, and where the cave systems are and
Mhm.
things like that. But yeah, I mean, I think Joe may possibly be from Pennsylvania, surely, if he's asking that question. So yeah, I think you delivered to him. I mean,
Okay.
and as far as us as people,
Yeah. Just go with,
no, please go ahead. Apologies.
oh, just go with good intentions. Um, they can read our body language very, very well. If you're going with bad intentions, they'll know.
I want to say this. Some people have referred to them as super soldiers and dimensional beings due to the eyes and so forth. And we don't know what it's, you can have a sighting of what you think is two eyes, maybe two orbs, maybe it is two eyes glowing back at you in some way. But they don't just walk out and walk up. I mean, anybody that's really had these accidental encounters, experiences, have all been totally accidentally. I mean, that's
Yeah.
I've always been able to compile that off everybody I've ever talked to, even the old schoolers, because we are the old schoolers that were
Yeah.
doing things in different ways. You had your direction, I had mine, but I was absorbing. I was trying to absorb, and that's one thing that always a characteristic that always came up. And that's why sometimes I wonder, our consciousness is part of a system. And I think of that just in the fact that, you know, the magnificence, in some ways, very dangerous as well, is technology. And how that works, and how we are able to send frequencies, and when you know and you compile everything that's going on around us that you can't see, it's just amazing. So possibly somehow they utilize these systems to actually appear. And maybe that's why we get the static charge of that frequency in the picture that kind of like takes it away, because we get a clearer picture from the back or side, but never a front facial in any way. But there has been some things out there, and I'm not saying that they're honest hoax, or
Hmm.
that's the whole part of the whole scenario. But when you do get that one, everybody calls you out, oh, that's a lie, it's not a Bigfoot, that's his bodysuit, and who's to really say, unless except for the person that took it. And we don't always give enough support to those people, and that's why I support you, because I know you had, since a young age, has you had to deal with this. And do you call it a blessing versus
Yeah.
perhaps maybe something else?
A blessing in a way that, that this has broadened my horizons immensely, and and also, a side effect that I think is most important is, I'm having fun. Yeah, that's all it comes down to for me. I'm having fun.
Well, that's good. That's good. And I think that's what we should all do. We should, uh, there's too much of everything. And I think positivity and focus for our own well being, our own health, our own, um, what do I want to say?
Mhm.
I don't know. It was one of those big words that just won't come. There's that age thing going on that shows the true age of Michael. But no, truthfully, it's all over the board, and we got to stay focused and keep positive the best we can, because you'll enjoy the moments of whatever it is
Yeah,
that you want to, dive into, and just stay with that structure of the
yeah,
component. Make it be your
yeah,
influence that guides you, and let the negative be your strength.
yeah.
Feed off them in reverse.
Yeah, before I retired, I wasn't able to devote a heck of a lot of time to this. So what I did, I learned as much as possible. Uh, but then, as soon as I retired, I was a sponge, and I was able to, get out then and travel around and really learn face to face with who knew what was going on, and who could actually help guide me where I needed to go, who wasn't speaking nonsense, and who wasn't taking too many drugs and going off of whatever. But it's it all comes down to learn what as much as possible, have fun with what you're doing, and just try to pass on what you learn. At the end of things, just pass it on.
Right. And I want to say this to anybody out there who's just short coming in, listening. With me is Mary Fabian. She's the head of the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Project out there, and it's like a spider with a web. She goes everywhere. If it's Pennsylvania, this is her. This is why. This is what brought it. This is the person that delivered everything to us. And I say that with respect to you. I really respect all your work that you've done. And I hope that people do that also the same way that I do for you. But again, just to reverse back just for a second, it came up again on another question, like the same way. Do you think there's any possibility that they could be some type of super soldier and they are we hear about these Nighthawk black helicopters unmarked coming into areas when people are like in these hot spots at times, or in the
Mm-hmm.
Grand Canyon when they don't want you by that magical cave, the Egyptian cave that exists down there, that where all the artifacts came out, went to, anything that there's, is there a possibility that it's like a catch, not a catch and release, but they created something to go out there. It has to learn the structure of what our geography is and what landscapes are like. And momentarily they come in and out of a system or something to figure out how survival will work for them into the future as well, or to help us get through that future.
Yeah, well, definitely government is involved, and I can say that 100%. Uh, yeah, as for being the super soldiers, again, I have to refer back to uh, the last trumpet, the end times, the last battle, and that they'll be on our side. And that, again, I firmly believe, and super soldier, yeah, at that point in time, uh, yeah, they're being bred for that. Government involvement, they are a few that I've run into, I highly suspect have been tagged, by the government, that they're following them, they're taking them. Um, I have personal experience with, seeing some of that. And it's, as to what purpose, for studying them. Yeah. Why don't they, put out that information, leak it out like they're doing with the UFOs? For what reason? Is it because of their DNA? That they do have the Raphaim, the Nephilim DNA, that they can't let that information out, or is it because that they have human DNA in them also? Which Dr. Melba Ketchum found, on her DNA studies. Because that would hugely affect things right there if that was publicly known. What do you do? Give them voting rights? Heck, people go into California and they can vote. They've been voting for
Yeah.
years. Um, what do you do?
No, I
Um,
totally get it. And with that theory of what you were just talking about too, when we learn about certain things of certain samples of certain, this has to do with humanism as well. Ron Wyatt was somebody that studied biblical content, and he did archaeology and stuff, and he was like a rock star. This guy could go out and find anything. I mean, he literally did. If you look into his name, and one of the things he did, from where they say that Jesus was placed upon the cross. Now, whether it was his blood or somebody else's blood that leaked down into this cave system that he was in, but he found that the blood, and because of the find that he made, may have had some type of importance to each other. And when he had the blood tested, and I don't remember the information, I have it written down somewhere, and I wasn't prepared for this in any way to reflect my dementia back, reverse engineer my thoughts. But it came out with 24 chromosomes. There's something wrong with that picture. This was something of a time of a finding of blood, which I think reflects to the fact that means they can identify the mother, but they can't identify the father. And which takes me to that other place when they say the fallen angels came down and had sex with all of, or well, maybe that wasn't the factual truth. Maybe the writers that were trying to write or understand the story to be written through the Sumerians, or however, depends on how and what you're looking at. Maybe they're referring to the fact that they were doing like we do now to help somebody have a baby, help a child, that gets a donor. So let's call. They may not have been even an angel or fallen, but they were just doing this and that would, in my mind, correlate with the fact of why we see that different trait and different bloodlines. And as we know, bloodlines is a very important factor to many of the, let's say, the capital elites.
Yes.
And we'll use a different narrative. But
Yes.
You understand where I'm coming from. So you do have these scenarios where these types of things come up. There was also a man, I did a story on him a few weeks back. I think his last name was Smith. In 1958, he took out an expedition. And he did it several times. It started out with 80. Then he went to 40. Then he went to 20. Then he went to like 10 or 15. And they would spread out. And when they did that, they were able to find structures. They were able to find hair samples, feces, etc. And he was able to actually, at that time, now we're talking scientifically a long time ago, came up with the same correlation of 24 chromosomes.
Oh, okay. Now, what is the name of that
I believe his
scientist that found the 24?
No, he was actually a multimillionaire that likes doing what we did, but he turned it over to the best at the time that existed who could go and break it down. His last name, I believe, is Smith, and I'd have to look it up for you. It's in my notepad. It's just not anywhere near in front of me. But it's a fact, and
whatever you find it.
No, I will find it. It exists. I have it. But I believe it was 1958 that he did that expedition, or he started it in 58. They may not have completed it till 1960, something around that scenario of time, because they were over going on. Mass numbers, nothing to find. You know what I mean? They still seen things, but they weren't able to get credible information. They had to reduce the numbers, but he also had to logically make every expert fit somehow the best way possible with the best eyes to understand the possibilities of what they would see, what they would find, what they would look at, and how to determine what they were looking at. So as simple as I put it to you, this guy had the smarts, he had the money, and he had the genius. And the problem is, even with all the work he did, they suppressed most of his information and people got to him. And not only that, it gets deeper. He was another missing MIA. Like as if I reached on a topic that I shouldn't be talking about. But I'll get that information to you. It's very close to me. It's in one of these tablets of recent. Because if I have an idea, I always need a tablet with me. I don't know about you. I get an idea, I got to write it down.
Right here.
Yeah. Me too.
Yep.
But it also helps.
Yep.
It also helps when we're talking like we are right now, because if I say something and it really has a lot of interest, I want people to question me, because I'm only trying to do what everybody else should be doing.
Yep. I always keep a pen and paper, a tablet with me, so I jot down a note or something comes to me and just write it down. And That way I can look it up later because my memory anymore, forget it.
I'm going through the same thing. I really am. I'll be in the middle of a sentence and I'll be like, duh.
Yeah, what was I
You know,
talking about?
you know what? The thing is, it happens to me more like when I'm doing this than it does in regular life. I wish, the old saying is you forget more than you can remember or whatever, something like that. I probably got that wrong, but I tried to get it out the best I could. I think that's just the part of life where we get to that point and things like that are a reality of that is the reality of our truth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wish I could reverse that. Do everything I can to live better and whatnot. And I think everybody, please, people, eat well, exercise.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you got to walk up your own flight of stairs 10 times a day that you normally wouldn't, it pays to get off the couch and do it. Let your body have movement, be fluid to life and air and
Mm-hmm.
this existence that we have. And I know right now with winter, a lot of people are going to get that cat. Do you already have cabin fever? I know I do.
Oh my, yeah. Yep. I'm planning camping trips right now.
Yeah. Well,
I want to get out.
I hope you can actually do one where here's the thing though. When I studied the ufology from up there, because it's been a very positive thing. And let me tell you something, Pennsylvania since the early 70s have been a faculty of hotspots of occurrences of many, many things when it comes to ufology. And I still believe we are in that realm of that fact that it's kind of narrated off, but we're also seeing it again now. It's like a new wave coming back into the thing. The problem is, as long as they keep doing this 24/7 system, whether they're trying to hide us from seeing something, not seeing something coming at the earth, whatever their system, well, is it really about hiding the sun? I don't believe so. I think if anything happened, maybe it's going to be, from the past. I look at that pole shift theory of, was it a flood or did something create a pole shift, weaponry, war, that just made the waters all come inland further and wipe out all the underwater cities. If something like that could reverse back, could you imagine if we could walk through the sands to see what's down there and what that would reveal of history?
I know there's a heck of a lot of things hidden by the waters. A lot of things.
Oh yeah, so many ancient cities and structures. That's a place I'd like to go. I mean, I've been in the woods. I've sat under
Yeah.
campfires and watched ufology. I haven't traveled to the east, and I wouldn't do that now if my life depended on it, because it's just like so much turmoil right now.
Yeah.
Some people are still going there though, and I've not that I've talked to them personally, but they've been sharing some stuff to me, and I'm friends with them on Facebook in certain ways and whatnot. Some I do talk to. They're going to Peru. They're going to all these places right now that are all being so-called under the element of war. And so why would I want to go there? If something happens like that, and that kind of takes me into that flood scenario. What if that flood was just misunderstood, or when people said back in the day that they turned to a pillar of salt? What if something was different about what had occurred? Because we don't know really where the information come from, but maybe something happened from the upper atmosphere that shot down and they were frozen in place. That could be misconstrued of somebody turning into a pillar of salt. Imagine a pillar of salt versus somebody that was just frozen completely. It would look
Yeah.
pretty much the same. And maybe they didn't know how to describe it, and they just
Right.
used salt as the closest thing that made sense to them. So here we are in those things, and that's why I would want to, as much as I would want to go there and walk through all these places, I think I would go to the ocean fronts.
Sounds like a good idea. Just don't get eaten by a shark or something.
Well, I mean, if the water moved back out in the amounts that it moved in,
Yeah.
we would have plenty to see. We would be nowhere near a shark,
Yeah.
and again, it would everything you would walk upon, look upon, or pick up become property of the
Right.
Orsini family or the Catholic in Action program, or
Yeah.
you know, or it belongs to the Spaniards. You know, the guys that came to America, robbed them blind, stole everything. Their ship sinks with stolen treasures on it, but it still belongs to them.
Mm-hmm.
When it goes to a court of law, it still winds up belonging to those the thieves. You know.
Really? Oh, wow.
So yeah, I watch and look at everything. I love, you know, the scope of maritime law and treasures and things like that. And yeah, if you and I were to go out and
Yeah.
we find something, you don't report it, and by law, you're supposed to turn it immediately over.
Yeah. I've heard
What
that
is
you have
that?
to report it, but and you really can't keep it, which is, hey, it's treasure. What's treasure? It's supposed to be rich. Otherwise, what's the purpose of going after it?
Right. Well, people do, and that's a. There's always been a windfall of law and
Yeah.
that goes against them. And again, these are the people who are trying to share purposeful uh, uh, news of, you know, their findings to us. And you have a lot of shows out there that I truly think spend a fortune to go and tell us things like, you know, we find things down there that nobody will talk about. And I think one of the most impressive things, like, doesn't, I can't think of what they call it off the top of my head, but there was a ship looking out there looking for a ship that sunk that was filled with wine. And if they would find it, it would be like one of the greatest finds ever. And sonar gave them a reading, and it turned out to be a giant UFO, but they won't admit that it is. But yet you can see pictures of us. You see that it's man-made. There's design in it, and you're going to tell me at the bottom of the ocean, the pressure of the water changed it that much in the movement? No, there's features about it that logically say anybody with common sense would question the fact of it. It truly is all over the internet. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but
Huh.
this is why you do what you do. I do what I do, and you know, in a way, you know, we're being informative to people to, you know, be open minded to so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to stay informed on a lot of things, but heck, you can't. You,
You're right.
there's just so much information that you can collect. And, I do find, the ancient shipwrecks fascinating, and the search for them, that is fascinating. The history, of exploration, and, heck, the Spaniards coming over here to the New World and um, killing and destroying, the ancients in South America, and who all have they looted? And what really sunk their ships, the entire armadas, down in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
What really sank those ships? Was it storm in actuality, or was it something else?
It makes yeah,
Just
it makes one wonder because it seems like something's always been watching us, and
Yeah.
that shows up in religious pictures depicted as there's more in the skies than just blue skies and
Mm-hmm.
clouds. Um, yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe there. And when you look across the board, like when you brought up all these pyramids in different sites, somebody was teaching the methods of these mega buildings and structures, and some of them, the articulation that's involved, the look of them, and some of them even have the spacecrafty look to them if you think about it. But again, I'm thinking about it in the way
Yeah.
of what I perceived of what I've been shown. Television can show you everything, but these structures truly, the one thing you can't take away is the fact that they exist and they do look like this.
Yeah.
And how they manipulated the stones to almost look like they were molded
Yeah.
um, and hair. It was all done with the copper
The
chisel.
precision they were cut.
Yeah, they cut with a copper chisel and sticks.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's pretty
String.
impressive. There's something that people don't look at much, you know, over in Europe. I think it's called the pink obulus. It's made of pink granite, and it was commissioned to come over here like in 1560 something by a pope. and to be placed there. I mean, we're going back in time and era of, I mean, and they had from all the writings and indications of manuscripts that I've been able to see and find, they actually had to create a barge just to move this thing. It shows up out of the ground, I think, at 82 feet. But there was nothing that we would understand that we can't do these things now, or even how they narrated the cut. It's so perfect.
Mm-hmm.
um, which takes us back again to the whole factor of everything that has come to us is, I guess you want to call it the biggest lie ever told on earth, our history.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all hidden. And, they say, oh, those huge blocks of rock were drugged by slaves over logs, over 100 miles or something from a entirely different location, along with the carvings, the stone carvings on Easter Island.
Mm.
They came from 100 miles away or something offhand. I can't remember, but and they're all pointing and all watching in one direction. What are they watching for?
2029. I don't I don't know. I don't know. I'm just going by that military document kind of thing,
Yeah.
of what that was about. I actually had a very nice guest on not long ago. He's known to the world actually because of Art Bell, and Art Bell himself named him the ghost scientist. But
Hmm.
he as well made mention to that date and time that I made mention to. And he also made mention to something that I learned of it at being called the Aladdin. He called it Alice. Now, we're still on good terms. Fantastic person. He's going to be back on, who was explaining some of the structure of what that 2029 was. And it has to do with sophistication, knowledge, and like Y2J was all a ploy to kind
Yeah.
of turn something on that
Okay.
is no longer within their control.
Okay.
And when people talk about it can self mutate, it can self teach itself, I think we're being thrown so many hints back into the basket of a simulation of something that we shouldn't take off the table. It's frustrating that we can't get into the deeper dives of what they are. But I hope by bringing in you trying to do what you can, me trying to bring in more guests and whatnot. But if you get a
Yeah.
chance to listen to the ghost scientist, he talks a lot about the general quantum makeup and the things that they knew many, 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 many years ago. And he
Yeah.
came from certain places of classification that were extremely, we'll just say high up. But when it comes to the people that he talked to,
Yes.
all the best in the world. I mean, he spent hours with Linda Moulton Howe, Art
Oh,
Bell, all
okay.
of them. I mean, he comes with a background of military strength, integrity, and a lot of information. And most of the shows that he was on would be cut off. The air would be cut off. The calls would end. Phones would hang up on each other.
Wow.
So he was actually being through the back door followed.
Monitored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And they monitor Linda. Linda's been frustrated through it with most of her career, whether she was talking about cattle mutilation or Bigfoot. It didn't matter. Uh, they
Yeah.
they know she's a rock
Yeah.
star, which she's is with what she's done. Just like some of the other
Mm-hmm.
speakers that we have that are good journalists on there, and she gave up her career to go into these narratives of what you and I are talking about. And she's been such a rock star. She really has.
Yeah.
I think she comes with truth and a lot of credibility. I mean, she has a general delivery that I will never have. Quote, she quotes people. She lets you know she's doing it, where it came from, why she's placing it there. It tells you a lot about who she is as a person and how her structure is on delivering information. I will never be able to critique things the way
Well,
that she has done, but I'm having a good time doing it.
well, all you can do is, pass on what information you have to lead to the ones who have the real in-depth information, and just introduce people to
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
And it's kind of telling, because those that have that true information, those are the ones that are being cut off, uh, shut off, and blocked, and their internet slowed way down, so that whatever videos that they're uploading takes 12 hours to upload, and if they upload at all, and or just completely shut
right.
off.
And we're probably in ways going through that right now. Maybe not us sitting here,
Yeah.
but people having to try to watch it, because somebody wrote to me last week, and I've had a couple comments recently. Not that it was terrible, but they
Mhm.
always have to come back and do a rewatch format of the show, because then there's more clarity to it. I guess
Okay.
StreamYards, or who are providers that we are using, their
Yeah.
technology reviews it somehow, and um, magnificently through AI technology puts it back together. It understands what our next word's going to be, and
Yeah.
it actually enhances your voice, enhances my voice. It really does bring a whole construct together, which means it tells
Mhm.
you technology really is fooling most of the public out there when you look at these videotapes on
Right.
TikTok. I'm not saying they're all wrong, but the incident in Miami, well, you never know. But isn't it funny that more police showed up for that than January 6th?
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of telling. I'd stopped the video and actually counted, and I think I counted up to about 60. No, it was almost 80, and but I could tell that there were more police vehicles out there than what I was able to see and count. Um, Amazing. Yeah, that's very telling as to something a little bit more than just some teenagers shooting off fireworks at
Yeah.
the mall, or fighting. It's plus a power outage, and was the airport truly shut down? I don't know. We haven't gotten confirmation of very much at all.
I didn't on that part. I mean, people were saying that that did happen. I seen kids running. I was sent a
Yeah.
picture that somebody says was taking off an insight camera in the mall that showed an alien.
Yeah.
I had a young lady that used to follow me and now does her own show. Diva, I think it's Diva 33. She's a good kid. We used to share ufology pictures together. She's really into it. She was catching these crafts going into what is known as, the Space Forces are going to tell you, is called hyperlink. It's when you see a dot of a craft in the middle and there's like a mist of a submerge around it. It
Hmm.
is actually pushing the gravity away because it's going to hit hyperspeed. It needs so much time to prep before it can put the pedal to the metal. Once it does, it's going a long distance. And the time of distance that it needs to stop is the same time of distance that it needed to start taking the hyperlink in effect, which is going beyond the speed of light. And
Huh.
that's kind of like the jump. And I think our technology is being shown to us, and it is being jumped. It's just, where did it come from? We got stories in the 1850 that the Germans were already working on crafts. 1850.
Yeah.
Newswaben,
Yep.
1933. This is way before, when you look at the proof of Roswell. But Lieutenant Corso, he verifies that story. If you buy any of his books or read it, for anybody out there, if you get and look at, and I post his stuff as well as Billy Meyer recently, because he had a library of pictures of visitors who actually said he was on their craft. He talked with them, and they were guiding him and giving him information as to what was going on, and that space time continuance doesn't exist as we think it does. It exists within our dimension, and they knew how to
Hmm.
manipulate it to go to certain places, times in the past, and so forth. That's a very interesting
Yeah.
case story. Billy Meyer, there's one arm. very timid guy, and they were giving him crystals from off planet. Now, how do you come up with crystals that don't exist on this planet, but yet you have them? How do you come up with over 300 pictures that not one photography company could come up and say that they have been tampered with in any way, as well as having people watch them with them giving
Yeah.
permission for multiple people to watch it? So why aren't I guess I'm upset a little bit in the ufology community is the book authors are regurgitating the information we know, but they're not always going after the right stories. I would
Yeah.
like to see some people go after some of these more hard to get stories because I wish I had time to, I would, but I would give and drop as much as I can to people that show significance to the structure of what they could be researching. That's all I can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the information is out there.
Yeah.
We just have to dig for it, collate it, and gather it and present it. As long as it's being allowed to be presented out to the public.
Right.
That's trouble right there.
We do have to have permission, like driver's license and wedding licensing, and I mean, what is not part of that now? Hey, I want to ask you a quick question. I know down like through Karn City, Armstrong County, I go up to camp. I follow 268 and whatnot out of Katanning, up by the Franklin Mall and so forth. That's kind of my way into East Brady. They are tearing all the roadways up there the last couple of years, putting in water lines now, removing everybody's septic systems. And not septic systems, I'm sorry, water wells, excuse me.
Oh.
They didn't remove that. Had they put in sewage? I don't know. I didn't knock on anyone's door. But I've been seeing this becoming more transparency coming to this. Now I'm seeing people saying that they want to put meters on people's wells to where the water won't go. Have you seen any of this?
I've heard that. Oh goodness, I think I read something about that this morning, as a matter of fact, and I'm thinking, I'm on well water, and I'll be damned if someone's going to be putting a meter, but what can you do? Somebody forcefully comes in, or you're away shopping for the day, and somebody comes, and God knows what they do.
Right.
They but to tamper.
It's like somebody wants our water resources.
Well water.
Yeah, it's crazy. They want to know the size of your pond, if a spring's coming through the property, and you have to allow them to collect all the data and information from it as well.
Yeah.
I just know that it's going on. I think Oklahoma's starting to fight back on it. And that's another scenario to that thing. But I say it because a lot of people, live on land. We study things in the woods. We look up into the skies. This is our home. These are our homes. These are our research centers, and we have people knocking at the doors from the street saying, we're changing the system up here, I mean, what's next? I mean,
I'm from the government. I'm here to help.
Yeah, I love that saying. And we were told, don't believe a word of it.
Yep.
President Reagan, you're right. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Very intelligent man. Makes me wonder a little bit about, what the Rod of God was all about when he created Star Wars. Because we know that the space program existed earlier, which means to tell me that he knew things as well. Just like JFK in 1960, blatantly spoke about systems of weather and what they could do and how they would start to work around it more. But I truly think that he was only delivering what was already being accomplished, because we know that even transparency on that comes from the Vietnam War, that we seeded the clouds, but we were just learning the technology of it. We knew it worked, and they decided to hit the gun, or the gun stuck. Whatever was delivering, the compressor stuck something, and it rained for that theory of 40 days and 40 nights. Was it supposed to do that? It's really weird, but that was part of the scenario of how it was described. And it rained so hard, it sunk all of our military equipment over there. They're still pulling stuff out of what they call the swamp muds left behind from those times in war.
Wow. Wow.
So it just goes to tell you how far back they have information out there everywhere. Hey, so I want to ask you this because we've been on for some time now and it's
Ooh,
getting a little bit late, but it's been fun. Look at how the time flies when you have
yes,
good conversation with somebody.
yes,
It's been enlightening for me on your side. And thank you so much for joining me tonight. But
sir.
why don't you tell everybody where you're going to be and what's going on? And if they have a story, how the best way to get in touch with you.
Okay. Well, where I'm going to be, let's see. There's we have campouts coming up. Yeah, I think the first one coming up is in Prince Gallitzin State Park, and that's in June. So I hope that some, can join us. That information for all the campouts, any festivals or conferences that I'll be appearing at, all that information is on my group, Pennsylvania Bigfoot Project. That's on Facebook. We have over 19,300 members. We were up to 19,400, and then we got a whole bunch of trolls that decided to come in, but um, we booted them out. As soon as they reared their heads, they get booted out. We have zero tolerance for any type of ridicule or harassment. But yeah, join the group and say hi. Any questions you have, get in there and ask. You can contact me through Messenger if you have any questions, or if you want to share any encounters that you've had. I can help you out if you feel traumatized. Contact me, and you can talk to me. Please feel free to talk to me at any time. And again, all the information for appearances at conferences and festivals, any campouts that we have, any town hall meetings also, it'll all be on the group.
Awesome. And do you have a book?
But yeah, I've really enjoyed this. Pardon
Do
me?
you have a book?
Yes, thank you for reminding me.
Hello. Let's sell
Yeah,
some books tonight, or at least if
yes,
everybody can share that you do have it. Let's get a vibe going. Let's get your book sold.
yes. Yeah, just get on Amazon, type in my name, Mary Fabian. My book it'll be the first thing that pops up. Um, my 50 years of experience with Bigfoot, and please, it comes in Kindle and paperback both. So if you feel like purchasing it, thank you. I appreciate it very much. I think the Kindle version is $4.99, I think, and the paperback is $14.99. So far, it probably may go up in a few months because cost, no matter what, my cost, what they charge me goes up. So unfortunately, that's the way of economics. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not on our side, and you don't ever have to thank me for having you on. It's been long coming. You know that, and complications jump in front of everybody. I had
Yes.
to deal with that house from hell I was posting pictures with. I mean, getting rid of people that just everything. Just it's life. But
Yeah.
very very happy we finally got together. See how
Yes.
easy this was.
I know it was. It was fun, and I'm glad you contacted
Well,
me. Yeah, heck,
yeah.
it's Sunday evening. I usually don't have anything to do. I'm just sitting there watching TV with my husband.
Well, I'm glad I could help bring some enjoyment to your life, and I hope we helped everybody else out there. And again, thank you for being on. I do appreciate it so much. I'll do everything I can to get this shared to get you a little bit more notoriety because you deserve it for 50 years, everybody. I mean, my God, that's incredible. It really is. It really is. You deserve all that. And, I'd like to see more people in the community out there give support for
Yeah.
what people do. because you're all going to get a little older someday. That big 50, if you get to it, is an accomplishment in itself. 50 years of delivering information, giving support, and willing to take a phone call just because you need to talk to somebody because of your, experience or whatever. I mean, that's just rock stardom. They don't come no better than that. And I know you know that, and I appreciate everybody. So from here at the studio, down somewhere in this hidden structure, we're going to sign off. So from the Dark Radio Network Project, America in Crisis, and all the other things that I do, thank you so much for being here with me tonight. I greatly appreciate you all. Have a pleasant night. We love you. Remember that. We really do. That's why we do this. Everyone have a great night. Talk to you soon.